Hey everyone, and welcome back to another vlog. Today is Monday, September 23rd. So I wanted to come on here and talk about a couple of things. Number one, I just got poked to check vaccination status, basically. So there was a few vaccines that I need for doing all of my clinical rotation, or I guess not clinical rotations, but practicum rotations. Those are set by the health authority that runs the health system. So I had to do that. Now my job is to just wait, basically, and they let me know what kind of the game plan is. So my job for that is now done. I will also eventually need a TB skin test, but that is not quite yet. I had I guess, bonus mark test in one of my classes today and got a 90 on that. First, I thought I didn't do very good, and then apparently some people were saying that some of the questions were marked wrong that should have been right. Got remarked and it was good, so I was happy with that outcome, considering I really didn't look at it much this weekend. Classes this morning were pretty easy, honestly. So I had a presentation to do in my communications class that went really, really well. I had a lot of fun with that whole assignment, so that was great. It was kind of up my alley. Right now, I'm actually just doing some cards. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I'm just doing some cards because I've been forgetting to do my cards lately because I usually like to leave it for like kind of the end of the day. But yesterday I just kind of ran out of steam after the morning. That's probably just because I'm getting so much information that I'm kind of getting a little bit overwhelmed probably. And so my brain is almost shutting down. So I'm just like, I think I need a break actually. So I decided to take yesterday afternoon off as well. Don't know how smart that was, but that's what I decided to do. I'm also kind of tired right now just because it's that time of the month as well, so that's not fun. So far, my migraines have been okay. I had really bad lighting in here today, so I had to put my light on, but ugh, don't like using that thing if I don't have to. Tomorrow I actually have a later start to the day because we're only doing presentations this week in communications, and I'm already done. So we were told we don't have to go to that if we're already done. So that's great. Just anatomy, physiology, micro, and one of my pharmacy courses tomorrow. I actually am probably going to start working on the notes for the LO2 stuff for the pharmacy course. I've also got an exam for my one class on Wednesday. However, it's really hard to study for it because it's a lot of looking up specific codes. I do want to kind of try that practice test. I just don't know when I should be doing that, but I should probably review the notes for that class as well. I've also got a sticky note here. This is my math course. And with that math course, I've got to focus on the stuff, but I got to do it when I'm in a decent mood to do it. I'm probably going to be doing that Wednesday at some point. Like, even though there are a few days I don't start at 8 o'clock, I may end up doing some work like 8:30 to 9. We'll see. And then tomorrow I definitely will be doing some work before I start classes because I'm not going until 10. So I will definitely be doing some work tomorrow morning before that. It's kind of a little bit of a softer week this week. Like, every single week has exams, but like this particular week is a little softer. Now, that being said, I think I do have a micro test like a week from tomorrow, so I should probably be going through that and just making sure that I have notes on that. I've actually wondered if maybe what I should do is those hardcover books, instead of having everything on loose leaf, is putting my summary notes into that so that I can kind of easily see what is shared between the classes. So we were going over like cell transportation or membrane transportation today, and that's like 100% review like all of the time for me. But it's just like, okay, how does this apply to the drugs now? Like, what do drugs generally tend to go by? So that's kind of what we got into today, which was good. So I enjoyed that. A little bit more complicated compared to the micro version of it, but it was good actually because it was like a really good refresher on that learning outcome 2 objectives. So that was really good. I think I need to maybe focus on the next couple weeks and like seeing, because this is a quieter week, it might be an opportunity for me to kind of catch up. So 2 classes are now done. So med terminology and math, which were honestly taking up quite a bit of my time. Now the math that I had is now being replaced by another math course, which I need to do even better on that one. So I do need to get that so that I am up to speed on that. So, like I said, I will need to take some time to do that, but I don't have it until Thursday. So I do have some extra space in my schedule that I can actually do that in. So that's going to be priority. I think probably Wednesday, as I said. I basically have to get, and I've caught up on my anatomy and physiology. All of the notes, the cards are in here, at least until the point until tomorrow. So I will have more to do. It's just that for now it's caught up. Basically making summary notes. Those summary notes seem to help quite a bit actually, because it kind of makes me think a little bit more about the concept. So that's probably what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to go through the one quiz that we have for Wednesday. The test that I have on Friday is actually the first math test. Okay, so you know how I was saying that I'm only on the first step of this whole thing with just taking the program? So I'm technically on this first step of this whole thing until I actually graduate from the program. So I'm going to take you through the actual process now of what happens when I successfully complete the program. So I'm just going to flip you around here. So here's the steps. Okay, so number 1 here is graduation from the diploma program. Number 2, meet language proficiency requirements. Number 3, completion of structured practical training and assessment program. So that is where I actually have to work with a pharmacy. I'm given 12 weeks and I have to do 500 prescription checks without a mistake. So you're given a certain amount of time. I think they said 12 to 14 weeks, and you have to check 500 prescriptions in that time in order to successfully pass that. Now, you have to find your own site. However, what happens is basically you often do this wherever you are working. So you can do it wherever you're working at least. So, and then complete the PEBCs, which is the Pharmacy Board of Canada exams for the pharmacy technician, which includes first part of a multiple choice question, and then second part is the practical assessment. So they take you through different scenarios and you have to prove that you can do everything to competency. And then the next part is a jurisprudence exams. This is what I refer to when I say law exam, basically. So there's an act that you essentially have to learn, and then you get tested on it to make sure you understand the legislation in the province. The next is the actual membership and registration online. So that's malpractice insurance, another criminal record check. We actually do more than one criminal record check throughout this, as we need to do it for registering for internship, which we do as part of step number 1 when we're actually in the program, because we need to be an intern to be able to do our practical work. And then registration and membership. So you actually do need to register and pay a fee in order to maintain as active in the membership. So when I say this is just the beginning, it really is just the beginning. So I'm hoping that provides some context for all of that. Now, language proficiency requirements are basically, there's a few different ways you can fulfill it. I have a degree from a recognized institution, so I should be able to use that actually to meet my language proficiency requirements. And I don't know if actually completing the program at Polytech also counts. I have to look more into that in order to understand it better. So registering to become an intern is actually probably one of the next big steps for me. I just wanted to come on here and just talk about that because I don't think people realize the amount of steps once you're actually done the program. And like the program itself is intense, and then you got all of these other boxes you gotta check off essentially. Hey everyone, so I'm actually finished up for the night, but I kind of forgot to vlog. So what did I do today? I was in classes for pretty much the whole day, except for from about 8 to 10 this morning. So because I already did my presentation, I didn't have to go to the one class today. So I spent that time actually on practicing math and making sure that I am showing the documentation that I need to show and that I could do the questions. I have to admit that I'm kind of struggling a little bit with the proportional analysis, and it's just because my brain just struggles with how to get from the step to step as compared to the dimensional analysis, which I'm like, I understand to cancel the units to get to another unit and that your proportions can be flipped. It just makes more sense in my head, and I don't know if it's because when calculating molarity and all of that we have to do in chemistry all the time, if it's just because I have more practice with it that I'm more comfortable with it, but it's kind of interesting. Like, I'm not really sure why my brain just can't think in proportions. Like, I can do simple ones that are like you have like one thing that you need to find, but when it combines into multiple steps, it's just hard for me to know like what intermediary steps I need in between. So that could be a little bit of a challenge. So that's what I did this morning. I spent a couple hours on that because I had the time, and I'm more likely to be productive in the morning. So I'm like, I'm going to take full advantage of this. And I wanted to get it done to see if I was struggling with anything because I have a little quiz on Friday. Anatomy and physiology was pretty heavy today. It was a lot of terms. So as soon as I get an opportunity with that, I'm gonna have to get those into flashcards. I have them written down, but I gotta go through them. I've got a couple other things that I gotta do too. My brain is just, I can't focus anymore, so there's no point. I've actually got a little quiz tomorrow, although it's kind of hard to study for because it's like looking up codes mainly. I've got some summary notes. I'm gonna take those with me upstairs tonight, but for the most part, I'm just gonna take it easy because clearly I need the break and I'm tired. When you have classes from like 10 until 4, it's pretty hard to do much of anything else. You kind of got to wait until you've got a little bit more chunk of time. And actually, for the next 3 days in a row, I've got time, like, I've got like 2 hours in between my morning and afternoon classes. And then tomorrow, even, I don't start until 9 o'clock, which is a little easier on my head than normal. That's kind of nice that there's some variation there and not every day start at 8 o'clock. Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. So I'm actually just pretty much almost going to finish up for the day here soon. I'm currently working on anatomy and physiology. This learning outcome is like so much memorization. So it's like the skeleton and then the muscles, and it's like seems to be just basically pure memorization at this point. I've gotten through quite a few slides at this point, but I think I'm gonna end off soon and then just go through the new cards because my brain, like my head hurts a little bit actually. Today was pretty good. Had a later start, so I actually got a lot of work done this morning from 8 to 9. So I had one thing I had to do, so I finished that from 8 to 9. From 11 to 12, I actually had another period that was free. So I did some notes during that time. I actually finished up because we had a quiz and it was scheduled for like almost an hour. So that was really nice. I think I was done in about half an hour. It took me a little longer, but this quiz was like looking up codes, and some of the codes were like a little bit more of an application, so they weren't like directly obvious what they were. So I spent extra time. I did really, really well in the quiz actually. So that was great. One of the best I've done so far, at least in a pharmacy class. Can't really beat anatomy and physiology with 100%. So there's that. Basically just had anatomy and physiology, was just overwhelmed with the amount of information again. Just this course is just, it's crazy. It's, you know how I use that hose analogy? Well, it feels like they're spraying about 2 or 3 hoses at me with this course. My goal is to just do the best I can do with each of these learning outcome exams, basically, because I don't know how much of this I'm actually going to learn, but hopefully it's like, if I can get even 75, 80% overall, I'll be really happy. I had a shower, that's why I'm got a towel on me. Had a shower as a break. And now I'm just, like I said, I'm going through anatomy and physiology, making cards, and then making some summary notes as well. I don't really know how useful the summary notes are going to be, honestly. Probably not that useful. I should probably just switch and do the like focus on the flashcards, because that's going to be the thing that allows me to memorize at least even some of this. And I think I got the basics of like the other stuff from last week, and it didn't quiz me on very much today, so I don't know. Hopefully more shows up tomorrow. I've gotten the work done that I need to for tomorrow, and I got math tomorrow morning again first thing. I don't know why they put these math classes first thing. I wish they were at like right before lunch, because that's kind of when my brain is like the most productive, is like about 10 to 12. But unfortunately, it's 8 to 10. Tomorrow I've got 3 classes. Friday, we have a quiz in our one class. Basically, only have 2 classes on Friday. And then it's actually a long weekend here this weekend because it's National Truth for Reconciliation, and the school acknowledges it as a holiday, so there's no classes on Monday. So I'm actually hoping that if I don't get caught up on things by the end of the week, that I can get more caught up on things this weekend and even take a little bit of an extra amount of time off. Those extra breaks, they help so much. Now, because I've already done so much today in the morning, it's meant that I've had to do less in the afternoon, which has been kind of nice because it's more along the lines of when my body's used to actually working, which is great. Hello everyone, and happy Thursday. So I'm just about ready to wrap up here for the night. I'm just going to do my flashcards for anatomy and physiology and any that are due for my one other class. And then I'm going to call it here. But got a bit of a surprise when I went to the pharmacy. So my needle was 100% covered. So I was not expecting that. That was great. I don't know why, because I was pretty sure my benefits would have been cut off after the last one. But when that happens, just take it and run, essentially, is the rule of thumb, basically. Today I had my math class first thing, and we actually have a quiz tomorrow. I'm a little apprehensive about it, but hopefully it goes okay. For me, I actually really like having a standing desk, because when I start to get a little fidgety, I can stand up. And even if it's not for like a whole hour, it's like just helps so much with the fidgeting. This anatomy and physiology, if I didn't have to do this anatomy and physiology class, I think my workload would be quite actually almost light for the most part. But because of having to do this anatomy and physiology class, this class is just crazy, a lot of information. And the amount of memorization in this particular section, which we're doing the skeleton right now, and then next week we do muscles, because our LO3 or learning outcome 3 is this musculoskeletal. So there's muscles and skeleton in that exam. Like I said, quiz tomorrow morning in my intro to pharmacy calculations. I don't know, I feel like it's going to be fairly straightforward, but there is some memorization with where we have to round to with different measurements, and then just remembering how to do Roman numerals. I feel like I've pretty much got the Roman numerals at this point, just because it's like I've seen it now so much. Like I've seen it in the midterm in math, I've seen it in the final in math, and now I've seen it in a couple of different classes. So I think I've gotten it. So I'm not too worried about that. It's just the rounding because that's very new and there's rules for it, but it's like and it's kind of logical, but it's kind of not at the same time. I'm going to finish off these anatomy and physiology and this other classes flashcards for the night, and then I'm going to call it for tonight because I am very tired. I really can't focus anymore anyway, so there's no point in even trying. All right, hello everyone. Happy Saturday, actually. So I didn't have much to vlog yesterday, so I thought I'd come on here today and just end this vlog really quickly before I get started on what I'm going to be working on here. It's actually a long weekend for me, so there's no classes on Monday because in Canada we have a holiday called the National Truth and Reconciliation Day. This is in honor of our First Nations and Indigenous peoples. It's not a very proud thing that Canada likes to mention, but I do want to talk about it in this video. So September 30th is National Truth and Reconciliation Day. So this day is important because back in the 1960s, and actually this didn't end until the 90s, so like fairly recent history, Native people were actually removed from their homes and forced into residential schools. There's a lot of kids that were actually killed in this process. Like I said, this is not a very proud thing for us, for our history, but it's something that we need to acknowledge. And Saskatchewan, I think, has a little bit of a deeper connection because one of the things is that we have a very, very strong Native population here. There's a lot of people that were affected. I know many of us know someone who's even affected by it. What's on the agenda for today, and actually the next few days, is I don't have classes, so I've got a few things that I actually want to do here. I have 2 quizzes next week. One of them, sorry, that cord was on my leg. I have 2 quizzes next week. One of them is in microbiology, and one of them is in my pharmacy practice. So those are the open book ones again. So I've got to finish doing my notes for that particular class. I actually don't really know the order I'm going to go in. So yesterday I did actually finish my cards up until the point where we finished for anatomy and physiology. And it's just going to be a matter of practicing those every single day until the exam. Like I don't really know how else I'm going to study for that class besides just practicing. And then I've got a couple of worksheets I need to do for my math class. And then I also would like to, along with going and doing those worksheets, I also want to go through the exam again. I did look at the feedback briefly after the test because it did give it to us right away. But by the time I got done yesterday, my brain, I couldn't handle anymore. Like the anatomy and physiology actually takes quite a bit out of my brain because it's like all of it's new. There's like nothing in this particular learning outcome that I've done before. In fact, I think if I can get an 80 or higher on this test, I'm going to be very impressed with myself. The good news is that I've got time. It's still I think the exam is a week from Tuesday. So, or not a week from Wednesday. I've got time. I just got to make sure that I do my cards every single day and hopefully I get through the end of the new ones by Monday and then can start having the algorithm sort out the stuff that I do understand compared to the stuff that I don't, which I feel like right now is more stuff that I don't compared to stuff that I do. Another section of flashcards that I want to make is not actually for a specific class, but it's kind of for the program in general. So one of the biggest competencies I have to be able to do, not only have 0 errors in my calculations, but is being able to read these Latin symbols. I've taken these in so many different courses. There are a few of them that I've got in the one course. However, these Latin symbols I'm seeing everywhere now because we have to be able to read prescriptions. It's one of the biggest things that we do because you entering prescriptions, you have to be able to read them. I want to make a separate Anki deck that's just those. It's just those. I think those are kind of the biggest things. I do need to print out my schedule for next week. Although I already know kind of what's going on because when I was making my game plan for this weekend, I had kind of taken this week and next week and was like, okay, what's the most important? I do have a few things that are more important than the others. Okay, so I just wanted to come on here quickly and talk about something that I found really fascinating. So I just had a double barrel with Angelo. For those of you who haven't watched my videos before, I am in a group with Dr. Angelo DeLulo, who does meditation awakening stuff. And once a month, we do these Zoom calls that are essentially, we can ask questions, and then he has another guest be able to answer questions as well. I had a really specific question today. It was really interesting. I didn't know whether I was going to get an answer or not because it's kind of been a while for him since he was in any type of schooling. But my biggest thing is I'm noticing a lot of differences between when I was in school before and now, and a lot of it has to do with how my body responds more than my head responds. And it was interesting because he started talking about how he would get this like all up like amount of energetics in the heads, and it would be like a giant headache. Now, I thought that my headaches were more so due because of me staring at this for 7 hours plus on Zoom a day, but maybe some of it is. However, I'm not convinced anymore that all of it is because it really does feel like an energetic thing. It's like gets to a certain amount of content consumed and I just get this overwhelming sensation in my head, like I'm overwhelmed. And I've felt like that for a few weeks actually. I wouldn't be surprised if it is something to do with energetics. So I think what I might actually try is there's a period often where I take a break after school is finished and then when I start actually doing work. Now, I had thought about using this time to do workouts, as I had mentioned, which I need to figure out how to incorporate those in. However, I think it would be better to do that at the end of the day, because then I can shower and all of that stuff that I need to do. But if I took even 15, 20 minutes as a break and went and sat in my meditation spot, I think that not only would it give me a good break between classes and everything else, but I think it would help manage those energetics a little bit. I'm going to try it. It's going to take a little bit because it's going to be a habit I have to establish. It took me months to establish a morning meditation routine. And I think 15, 20 minutes is plenty enough time. I'm going to try that based upon the info I got today, which I found was really helpful because it was something I hadn't even thought about because this is also new. Very, very helpful. Sometimes you get very practical advice, and then just managing energetics in general. I know I'm sensitive to it because of being on retreats. And this is something that when you talk about with other science people, you don't really feel comfortable talking about it because the energetics of everything is kind of that more, it feels kind of more woo woo until you start experiencing it. Went in with one question, came out finding out the answer to another. All right, that's it for this segment. Thanks for watching this week's vlog. If you're enjoying my content, please do subscribe, hit the notification bell, click the like button, leave a comment down below. I'm hoping that by sharing this journey, which I'm honestly doing a lot for myself, that I can provide some inspiration that life doesn't end just because you've been diagnosed with a life-changing illness. Now, I do need to preface that by saying I am very lucky to be in the position that I am right now because 6 years ago, this wouldn't have been possible. 5 years ago, I was like actually more sick. So I have come back and bounced back and have discovered a great amount of resilience with this. And actually, I must say that this online thing actually because I'm able to take things a little slower during my periods, I actually had less trouble with this last period than I usually do when I'm having to work. So it was a little bit easier to manage because I was able to be at home for it. It didn't mean that it was any less painful or that my brain was working that much better, which it wasn't, but I was able to figure out a way to do it. So that's great. I'm just hoping that that continues when I actually have to go to work, because this is not a job where I can work from home. With all that being said, thanks for joining me this week. I love you guys, and I hope to see you in the next vlog. Bye, everyone.